It's working.
My name's David. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ, and I struggle with change.
Hi, Dave.
Anybody else struggle with change? Anybody wish they could struggle with change that didn't? No? Well, that's weird, isn't it? I'd like to tell you a couple of stories. I worked at a huge aerospace company building airplanes, Boeing, and they came through when I was about 35, 37 years old, and they said that they wanted to 5S it, and I said, 5S it? And it was a program that came out of Japan, and they would sort, or 5S's, sort and stack and make them safe, and what they wanted to do was arrange every bench at every machine so that you would have a handle, you'd have the screwdriver, you'd have a hammer, you'd have a chloro bar, whatever you needed to do the job was right there in front. And they put it at a 45-degree angle, and I thought, man, that is a great idea after about 2 weeks. At first I thought, I ain't doing it. Nobody will put this stuff away. Nobody does anyway. And so I was cranky and unassuming, not listening, not believing, not trusting, even though that Japan said it worked. And I found myself negatively and pridefully dissing on anything that anybody had to say about it until I tried it. And once I tried it, and every machine I went to in the department, the hammer was in the same place, the crowbars were in the same place, the bolts that you needed were in the same place, and I just went, wow, this really works. And it was all itemized, and you could open the drawer, and it was all cut into foam, and so you could tell instantly what was wrong, and then go, oh, those are in my box, or oh, I left them over there, or behind the machine, and so when you policed your area, you could just instantly tell what was missing and what wasn't. And so it changed my mind. And for the rest of the time of my days at Boeing, I appreciated that. Almost every day, I would appreciate that change. But when God started changing things in my life, I wasn't very appreciative. I remember that one of the first big changes was that I had to stop drinking, and I didn't appreciate that at all. I was mad at God for making me an alcoholic, first of all. I saw it coming. I saw it in the family on both sides when I was just a little kid. But then the first time I tried it, I thought, man, I thought, alcohol is excellent, right? It took me to places that I was never able to have the courage to go. I talked to pretty girls. I told stories. I didn't care what you thought. I sassed cops. I had a blast until I didn't. And when the change came for me to stop drinking, my whole life had been around drinking. I went camping drinking, I went hunting drinking, after work to stress reliever, I went drinking. You want to have a better trip on a road trip? Start drinking. I did it everywhere and everything I did until it didn't work, and then I had to start adding a little bit of pharmaceuticals, because if you can't get out of your head drinking alone, then you have to add something to it. So I found myself adding something to it, and then I found myself dealing those additions to kids in college and thinking about what that would cost if I got caught. At one time, at the utmost of my career, I had 5 great big black plastic sacks of marijuana in the back of my truck, and I was driving across Portland. And I would have been fine, except I got really high first, and I thought that the guy beside me was from the FBI, and there was a helicopter up there circling around me, and I almost got out of my truck in traffic and ran off the mountain because I thought I was done. I thought I was going up for 30 years. And it wouldn't matter because my truck would have crashed and it was registered in my name, but you don't think of things like that. I wasn't really smart at that moment. When I realized I was going to have to leave that whole world behind and start going to AA meetings, and I had turned myself into a treatment center, I had 2 stints of sobriety without asking for help. The first one, I asked for no help. I just did it on white knuckle and anger. The second one, I let God in, but I didn't let people in, and he wasn't going to let me get away with that. And maybe you've had the same kind of experience. God will not let you hide out in your bedroom and have a great life. It's not going to happen. And so the third time I actually got in, I interned myself into a 30-day treatment, and they made me go to AA meetings. And if I didn't go to AA meetings and didn't get a sponsor, I'd have to pay for my own treatment, and it was $7,300, and I'm a stingy sucker, and I wanted, I didn't have a bunch of money in I had a big liver, but I didn't have a big checkbook. And we don't come in with small livers and big checkbooks, do we? So the changes that I had to go through, they disrupted a lot of what I wanted out of life. Going to AA meetings sounded like it would just be stupid. Why would you waste your life listening to other people talk about their damn problems? And then when I started going, I realized that after the meeting, I felt better than I did before the meeting. Every time. It was a universal solvent. And when I started actually recognizing that that was a great way to get out of an argument with my first wife, then I went to meetings all the time. And then I started using AA as an avoidance technique. And God didn't let that last very long either. I got miserable, I got suicidal, I stepped out on my wife again. That was the worst thing that I ever had to live through. Well, maybe except for the divorce. When I wasn't able to change, I wasn't able to accept God's help and let His mercy change me, when I wasn't able to let His wisdom decide what I was going to do with my sex life, I did the same thing I'd done before when I was drinking. And what that did was put me in a suicidal depression, and I tried to take my life for hours and hours and hours on end with a gun, and I just couldn't seem to get the trigger pulled hard enough. And I thought I did a couple times, and I don't know, I still wonder if God didn't have His thumb in between the hammer and the firing pin. But anyway, I finally went to a meeting, and I talked about what it really felt like to be me. And I talked a little bit about suicide, and a guy walked across the room and offered me another chance. He said, you need a sponsor, and you need to work the steps. And so I started working the steps, and I didn't think they would work. I was going to be the first person to prove they didn't work. And I thought I had this vast intellect, and I knew exactly. I'd been looking at them on the wall for a year. I was 13 months sober before I got a sponsor, a real sponsor. And I decided that I'd done the steps up through 5 or 6, I don't remember what, and decided myself right here, and nothing had changed in my life. So I got a real sponsor, and he asked all the hard questions, and then he made me do the real hard work. And what I found was that there was a desire inside of me to change that had been masked, covered with fear and pride. I didn't know that I was afraid to change, and I didn't know that I wouldn't allow myself to know that I needed to change, or even that I wanted to change, until I really started looking at myself. When I saw what I'd been doing in the 4th step, it gave me a willingness to want to be different. And I had never had that before. So all the changes that have been forced upon me turned out to be life-giving. But the changes forced on me by people turned out to be resentments, right? There must be a difference between turning your will and your life over to God and turning your will and your life over to human. Another story, my sponsor got drunk, and that created quite a change. I got a resentment at him. I had him on a pedestal, and when he fell off a long ways, man. I didn't realize how tall that pedestal was until I was trying to live life without him. He was my conscience, he was my wisdom, he was my connection with God. He heard what God said, and he would tell me what God told me to do. And when I did what he told me to do, life would get good. Life was getting good. It didn't change my relationship with my first wife, but everything else at work was really changing. People were seeing it. And it wasn't because I wasn't because I wasn't willing to change with my wife, but she looked at me, my first wife, and she looked at me and she thought, you know what? I don't think I'm ready to go without alcohol or pot. Besides, I didn't use it like you did, and all the stuff that goes through here. So she went down to the bar and got a new boyfriend, and that was a very difficult change also. She moved him into the bed that I had made and gave it to her for her honeymoon, and she He moved his boat into the barn I built, and he planted his butt in the chairs that I built for the deck, and he played with my boys and tried to take them hunting and fishing and tried to be dad and tried to force them to call him dad, and I wanted to go out and beat crap out of him, right? And staying out of it was a change for me. It was a great change for me. My sponsor kept reminding me that these were consequences that I had made. And when I had that attitude, I could leave my hands off of it. But if I was very alone with the thoughts, I would get them up in my head and I'd start whirling and planning. And then I wanted to make the change happen to him instead of let God make the change happen to me. And so I started finding out that if I have a resentment, I'm guaranteeing that I'm not ready to change, but I'm thinking that you're the one that needs to. So if I have any kind of strong emotional going on in my life, I begin to count all the things in your life that need to be changed and ignore everything that God is telling me about myself. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but it doesn't work. People don't change when I think they should change. They think when they change when they bounce and God helps them change. But I didn't know that for quite some time. I was blind to that. I thought if I could take other people's inventory, it would justify, minimize, and rationalize my life so I didn't have to change whatsoever. And I caught myself recognizing that there were other people in the program that were changing faster and finding blessings faster and finding peace faster than I ever thought possible. There were people around me. I changed really rapidly for a little while, and then I got into this doldrums where all these things felt like I was losing everything, and I did. I lost a house and 3 acres and 3 creeks and 401ks, the house goes away, everything went away. I drank it away. And I wanted to be able to hang on to that, so I didn't want to let God change that part of my life. And so I started getting bitter and angry. And I slowed down the process of recovery. I slowed down the process of redemption. I slowed down the process of being intimate with God. And I said that on purpose so that you don't. The plan he has for you is so much better than the plan you have for you. You can't even compare it. For anybody in any kind of real recovery that has a few years, if they look back and they ask themselves, would I rather have my old life or would I rather have this one? There wouldn't be one person in 30 million that would say, I want my old life back. Not one. I haven't met anybody. I've met some people that thought that way, but they never worked the steps. They never got free. They did the same thing that I did. They put their feet in the sand and they said, you can't make me, God, you can't make me. And they might get sober, but they're not going to get peaceful. They didn't get the program. They just got one thing out of it. And that's not how God works. There's been a whole bunch of other things. I don't really need to talk about any more stories, I don't think. But how do you handle change? When it's your idea, it's easier to handle change than it is if it's somebody else's idea. You ever had a boss you were mad at because they were making you change? Or a wife or a husband? You ever get a new boyfriend and after about 3 weeks they change? They used to open the door for you and now they leave their underwear hanging on your lamp? Right? Hey! You didn't tell me you were going to do that when you were smoozing me out there behind Dairy Queen.
Dairy Queen.
I didn't cuss. So when it's somebody else's idea, change. When it's somebody else changing and we had an idea, we had an expectation of what that was supposed to look like, and then they don't meet it, don't we start pointing the finger and counting their stuff and forget to count our own? So, when was the last time that you handled change with full acceptance? Or have you ever? When did it come? When did full acceptance come? Did it come after you saw the results and then you said, oh man, that was great? Or did it come a little bit piecemeal at the time? Or did somebody tell a story and you said, dude, that sounds like a change I need to make too?
Little bit by little bit by little bit to be able to recognize it.
It builds on itself, doesn't it? Everything that God does builds on itself. The trust we have for him builds on itself. The love we let him love us with builds on itself. what changes in our lives, what changes coming out of my mouth, what changes going into my head, what changes how I treat my body and my friends and my kids and my spouse, changes a little bit by little bit. It builds on itself because everything that God does stacks up in us. We were made to be a vessel, and we filled it with a bunch of junk, and it took a while to empty that junk out. In fact, I like to keep some of those precious things, like the biggest diamond. Oh, look, I got a stubborn streak. I got that from my dad. I'm proud of that. I kept that thing. Petted it, used it when I needed it. You know, it got me out of some binds, but it also got me in a lot of trouble with the police. Way into recovery. Cheryl's going, shut up, Dave, shut up, Dave, shut up, Dave. And I go, Karen, you know, he's got a gun, you know. Dude, I just stayed angry because I didn't want to change. I thought I needed to protect myself, right? God's not going to protect me, is he? Why would he protect me? All those things I did, I was still holding evidence against myself and not letting God forgive me. And if God can't forgive me, he can't love me. So the reason I tell stories on myself is so that you don't have to. Man, I love you guys so much. I just want what God wants for you, because now I know that is a beautiful, beautiful life where you weep. You might try to hide it, but inside, you know that's a good weeping. I don't get it. Why do I have to cry? But man, when you're weeping for joy, it is like, what drug gives me this? Let's package this baby up. Fentanyl would fall off the map, man. But why is it so hard to surrender to God? It's all his fault. He gave us self-will, right? It's all his fault. He gave us this brain. It's always looking out for itself, always want a little bit more. And then we allow him to change us in a way. When we're painfully miserable, will allow us to change something. And then we go, oh. And for a while, we're riding this high kite. Everything's great. And then it starts raining again, right? If it was always just perfect, we wouldn't want God in our lives. So you had change forced upon you. Anybody come in because of the courts? A spouse? Mom and dad? Anybody run from the cops? Anybody scared? Scared in here?
Not anymore.
And the rest of you, what?
Not anymore.
What'd you come in for? You wanted a little bit better life? Right? What?
Hope.
Somebody said it.
Hope.
Heard stories, didn't you? You heard that there was AA, you saw something on somebody's face. God gets around. He spreads the word. That's why you're sitting in here. You want a better life. And then you believe it's going to be given to you, but you're still dragging your feet with some of those changes, aren't you? There's a set of footprints in the sand, and then there's toe marks where you're dragging. And you can't help it. Want to slow that one down a little bit? I don't really want to get vulnerable enough to pay the IRS everything that I'm supposed to pay them. But you'll get there, right? I don't want to quit my under-the-table job because I don't want to stop speeding. Some people do. So, what changes would you like to make? Close your eyes and ask God, what changes do I have the desire to make inside, Lord? What are you leading me to right now? What's driving that desire? Is it a desire for health? Is it a desire for intimacy? Desire so that I can take out the garbage? I don't want to be stubborn anymore? Is it because I trust God? I'm just scared to take that step? Is it what God wants? Or is it what I want? So I prayed lots of times for God to change what I want to want. I was standing outside of a meeting one time and I was talking about one of my sponsees, and he wasn't doing what I told him to do, and there was an old guy there, long years in the program, big yellow teeth, you know how old guys are, they look like. Anyway, yeah, he said, are you willing? And I'm like, you mean you're gonna put it on me? I'm complaining about my sponsee, and he goes, yeah, are you willing? And I'm going, well, yeah. You know? So what he was asking me was, am I willing to love this guy even though he won't do what I said? And I said, well, I think I'm willing. And he said, well, if you're not sure, then ask for the willingness to be willing. And so we can ask for the love to be loved. We can ask for the humility to be humble. We can ask for the fearlessness to be fearless. We can ask for the hope to be hopeful. God doesn't care where you start. He just cares that you start. He doesn't care where you start. He doesn't care when you start, just that you do. And when you don't know what to ask for, ask him what it is he wants you to ask for. He's not going to keep it a secret from you. This isn't you got to figure out exactly what God wants for you all the time. You just figure out he's a good God, and then he'll open yourself up and he'll pour himself into you. And he'll do that with every human on the planet at the same time, and he won't run out of gas. Ever. So what's keeping you from really, really, really trusting him and letting go? Is it a secret desire that nobody knows about that you're going to tell on yourself tonight and ask for forgiveness and confess? Is it something that happened to you when you were 5 and you can't let go? Is this something you did to somebody else when you were 9? You thought you shouldn't? You figured that if you did it on purpose, you can't be forgiven? I got some of that going on. What is it that he wants for you, that you're standing there with your arms crossed and your feet dug in going, nope, 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 gritting your teeth? It's causing stress. You don't want to talk about it. Keep it in a little box. You carry it around with you everywhere you go. It's heavy. It's in the backpack that you're carrying right now. And he wants you to just trust him and let him have it. And what he does with that is he gives a new paint job that starts from the inside out. When you begin to feel different, then you'll see yourself differently. And when you see yourself differently, you'll give yourself away easier. And when you give yourself away easier, you're stepped into the river of love. And there's no turning back. The people that have started helping other people, they don't stop unless they're doing it to try to prove that they're good enough. But if you were loved first and then you're giving that love away, nobody's ever stopping that, baby. You'll give your life right to the end, and you know it. So when change is happening, are we closed? Open? Angry? Are we curious? We know that when a reaction is greater than the problem being looked at or dealt with, that the power comes from the past. Did you know that? If somebody says something to you and you instantly want to jump out of your car and pound their face, it didn't happen that moment. You're carrying something from before. When you're talking with your spouse and you have a big reaction, when you're talking with your sponsor, and you want to tell your sponsor to go, stick it, I'm getting a new sponsor, you've probably touched on something from your past. So you can ask God at that point, what is it? And he'll tell you. And if you're scared to hear it, you may not hear it. But you'll hear it at a meeting, you'll read it in a book, somebody will talk about it, it'll come up. When you're willing, you'll make sure it comes up. Because there's a desire in you to be just like him. And when you fulfill that desire to the best of your ability and allow him to fill it to the best of his ability, you look like him, you walk like him, you act like him, you start to smell like him. Why not? Why not? You know, there might be a few people that are mad at you, but there's going to be thousands of people that will be changed by you. Why not? So when the past is powerful negatively, it's based on unforgiveness. So you can ask God, will you give me the courage to ask for forgiveness? if you can't ask for forgiveness? If you think you did it on purpose, or if you don't want to let go of it because you think you're protecting yourself with unforgiveness from somebody, it's not how you protect yourself. If you protect yourself with love and they come and give you hell and only love comes out, they'll stop giving you hell. We're the ones that God is going to have to change so that everybody else changes. You're not going to be better if everybody else changes. If you allow God to change you first, then you look at everybody else differently. And that stuff, all that tangle stuff that used to happen, it falls off. You mean I was the cause of all that? This thing is amazing, isn't it? When we get this thing aligned with God's, impossible to stop. So what are you going to choose? In 2 Corinthians 5:17 it says, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old is gone, the new is here. Sounds like some change might need to be made, right? From the old to the new. In Ephesians 4:22 through 24, you were taught with regard to your former way of life, we've been talking about that tonight, your former way of life, to put off your old self. How do you do that? Sounds bloody, doesn't it? Which is being corrupted by its deceitful desires. So they aren't really desires, they're deceitful desires, which means you want to hide them from people, you want to hide them from yourself, you don't want your folks to know, you don't want your spouse to know. You got this hidden desire and you don't want to let go of it, and it keeps you from becoming the new creation. You're not letting go of the hidden desires. The best thing to do with those things is just start talking about them around the fire in a small group, and then talk about them again and again, and pretty soon you'll see other people, and pretty soon you'll realize, I've talked about it enough and I'm ready to let go of it. I don't understand it. All I know is it happens. It's miraculous. Everything we've ever talked about in this room is miraculous because God's involved in every bit of change. God's involved in every bit of good. God's in charge of everything. And our job is to let go and let him. And it's hard. That's why I'm talking about it. In 2 Corinthians 3:18, and we all who with unveiled faces, nothing hidden, unveiled faces, absolutely nothing hidden, contemplate the Lord's glory, are being transformed into his image with ever increasing glory, which comes from the Lord who is the Spirit. So that's what he wants, and that's what we want, and we can let him. And talking about it is a great place to start, because we can convince ourselves when we speak it out of our mouths and it goes in our ear and it changes how we think. And if you do that long enough, you'll be at the precipice of change, because that's what he wants for you, and that's actually what you want for you. So it's the first of the year, and we talked about change, and I'm done. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.